Hey, happy 2022 to each of you. Welcome to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive safe, Dave. You know what? I'm going to start this year just different than I ever have before. I'm going to focus and make sure that I focus on loving you, Mr. Drive Safe Dave. Loving you in ways you've never been loved before.
Well, I'm just curious how that hasn't been going on all along. Why do we have to wait till 2022 to make those kinds of changes?
We have to move forward in all we're doing. Man, how was that New Year? Did you stay up for the whole thing?
I saw, this has been a long time, I saw the ball drop in New York. I was in bed 45 seconds later. I saw the ball.
Not real exciting. I mean, we saw, it wasn't as many people. Now, granted, a lot more than what we've seen, I guess. And what has it been 2 years?
Yes.
Was last year the only year of COVID?
Yeah, the only New Year. Yeah,
2021.
The only New Year.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah. And then 2020 is when it hit. So, yeah, last year was New Year's Eve with COVID, and this is the second New Year's Eve with COVID.
This is hard to believe, when you think about it. This March, and again, that March is kind of where we hit that peak. That's been 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost been 2 years in dealing with COVID, and now, the arch enemy, Omicron, Omicron from.
And it's still prevalent, and it's still marching across the United States.
Hey, but Drive Safe Day, we do start off 2022 with a lot of the same news, right? Supply chain, still front page news with everything going on. We have supply chain crisis. We saw IKEA come in. Let's go to the chicken. I'm good with chicken too. You know what? You're going to start seeing a lot more chicken thighs. And I'm a thigh guy.
I don't mind.
I
don't turn my nose up. You know what I mean? At legs and thighs, I don't turn my nose up. In fact, some of the best wings you can eat are the legs, right? When you go to get chicken wings, I mean, they show up on the in the leg category. So I'm good.
So we've seen, Purdue Farms, you see, if you go shopping at the grocery store, you'll see that price in the chicken. But here we go. In the boneless thigh chicken sales in 2021, there was a 14% increase in the purchase of that and a 20% increase in ground chicken made up of primarily the dark meat. And what is ground chicken? We talked about the chicken. We talked about the supply chain. We also have IKEA going in there saying, hey, you know what? Expect about a 9% increase this year in pricing straight across the board. Hey, let's look at this too for a second. Let's just look at the supply chain and see if we can get this going here. So here it is. The year's over, right? And now we're going to dump into see, okay, well, what's going on right now? We believe it's going to be pretty similar to what we saw last year as far as the freight volume goes. We look at last year in that 2021, we ended up that year about 10,848. You can see it right here. We ended up about 11,343. So pretty similar freight volume to what we saw last year. We're going to kind of go forward though, and let's just try to take a look at what's probably going to happen this year. Well, here we go. So we jump up in, here in a few days, we're going to jump up, get back to kind of normal. And then all of a sudden in March, we saw of last year, freight really stay high, never come down at all until the very end, the holiday season again. We expect to see kind of these same marks. I'll tell you what though, Drive Safe, I believe we'll see a stronger January and February than we did back last year in 2021. Also in 2021, we look at back here at these rates and we talk about rate increases. Well, they really didn't even start coming into play until really closer to May, because shipping companies and carriers, they were still putting the rate charges in place, right? And that takes 3 to 6 months as you go through the new bids that come out. So here we have it, the freight, all of a sudden, the freight goes up, but you know what else went up during that period? The rates.
Yep.
So rates continue to stay high. If you're a shipper today, you should, you're going to, these rate increases we're seeing on with IKEA, with the chicken, it's real. Right. I mean, we expect the volume this year to start off a lot heavier and then kind of normalize. And I say normalize a lot to what we saw last year, very similar to the same kind of year we saw last year. We know a couple things are going to remain the same. Driver shortage. Still a little shortage for the equipment, right?
Absolutely.
We haven't seen anybody just all of a sudden.
Nobody found a box of chips. Nobody.
So it's still there.
Hey, look! No, nobody did that.
So we're still short on product. We're still short on trailers. We're still short on drivers.
Warehouses are still empty.
Warehouses are waiting. They're still getting built and, waiting for this to come in. We still have just the traffic jams out there on the ports.
Yep.
We still have, people trying to figure that part out. The only, it's going to be another, a big year, exciting year for the transportation as we try to figure out and try to find different ways to utilize that same group of drivers, within what we're doing. Because when I say that, what I'm talking about is you have to realize that we say we're 80,000 drivers short. Let's just stick to that. Well, the problem isn't, we keep giving, the pay increases. We've seen that last year. That's phenomenal. I love that side of the business, getting those drivers paid. But it's the same group of drivers. They're all still floating through the same companies. We've got to find ways to get new entrants into this industry.
But tires and brakes have to be, they're the most critical part at saving lives, And again, I kind of stumbled across something. I'd like to ask Drive Safe Dave. He loves trivia. When was the first American fatal traffic accident recorded? Any idea?
I got money that says you don't come close to this.
10 years. I'll give you 10 years. Let's see if you can get close.
1903.
Wow. He got within 5. 1899 was the first recorded accident. Any idea where or how?
I'm going to say it was I'm going to just jump it out there, and I'm going to say it was probably close to Detroit.
No, it was New York City. A guy stepped off a trolley and was hit by a cab driver.
Okay.
Just unbelievable here, but you got to watch for that. Take as much speed out of this as you can, folks. You can see the traffic's moving away, so the driver's got great speed. When you see this, man, right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of things bad about this, and number one, the driver can't. Hard for the driver to see when he's camouflaged by that car coming around.
Yes.
You can't distinguish between the two vehicles, especially if he's hugging that tight to the car. So it just makes it really, really, really scary for the driver. And just riding a white line like that, that right there, you pick a lane.
This year in 2022, we want to make it the safest. And the only way we can do that is by the actions that you're going to have to give out there. There's a lot of streaks out there that we see from, in the street Texas, hashtag in the street Texas, where these states and trucking companies and insurances, all these things, we continue to see fatalities, accidents, and so many of them. And I'm not going to talk about the four-wheelers. I'm going to talk about what's in our control, because that's all at the end of the day we really can control. How many of those are preventable? How many of those happen from fatigue driving, from driving in that weather when you should have just pulled over? How many, did you see a car coming, or, that maybe you saw that accident coming and you could have maybe slowed down to avoid it, but you didn't? Being prepared, being better than you've ever been before. That's what I want for you in 2022.